We now move on to the contributions to the training of HQP criteria. NSERC continues to incorporate increased consideration for equity, diversity, and inclusion into its assessment processes to ensure that the research and training supported by discovery grants is accessible to the largest pool of qualified potential participants. The expanded instructions for the HQP training plan require all applicants to describe the challenges and barriers to participation and inclusion within the context of their program of research and training, and knowing this, choose specific actions that will promote the participation of a diverse group of HQP. We'll get into more details as we get into each section.
The HQP section of the application is assessed based on two main sections: your past contributions to training and your future plans for training. The quality of the research training at all levels is valued, including undergraduate students involved in research such as theses and summer projects, to graduate students and postdoctoral fellows. Normal teaching duties, including capstone design projects and engineering, should not be included. Technicians and research associates are also included, as well as other trainees from non-academic sectors such as government and industry. The quality and impact of the contributions is what is assessed, so be sure to clearly describe this in your proposal. Your CCV should only list the HQP where you had a formal role in their supervision and co-supervision. Clearly explain your role in any co-supervision of HQP in past or planned training activities. The evaluation group members use the following elements of the application to assess this criterion: the past contributions to HQP training section of the application, the HQP training plans section of the application, and in the CCV, supervisory activities and contributions. We will start with the first section, past contributions to HQP training. Assessment of past contributions includes three components: training environment, HQP awards and research contributions, and outcomes and skills gained by HQP. We'll go through each component in detail in the next few slides. The assessment of the past contributions to the training of HQP is based on the last active 6 years of research. For competition 2022, this would be from January 2015 to now. The impact of the past training can be in the NSE and other fields, but it is important to clearly explain how the skills gained in your research training environment are being used by the HQP. Focus should be on the quality and impact of training. In the training environment component, you want to describe the research training and development opportunities that have been provided to your HQP. This could include, but is not limited to, science outreach and engagement, interdisciplinary research, promoting equity, diversity, and inclusion in the NSE, or collaborations and interactions with the private and public sector. The level, content, and involvement of supervision or co-supervision should also be explained. You are asked to describe barriers you identified and specific actions you took in the context of your past research and training program if you participated in this way. Specific actions can occur at any stage of training: outreach, recruitment, hiring, mentoring, and training. Specific actions can occur at any stage of training. There is no priority or weighting associated with stages. For example, specific actions related to mentoring are not seen as better than those related to outreach. We do not expect you to do everything. When you identify the stages associated with your chosen actions, it adds to the clarity of the description, demonstrating your awareness of EDI as well as your ability to contribute to increased equity and inclusion in the research and training environment. We would like to emphasize that trainee demographic data is not requested nor required to assess impacts resulting from consideration of EDI in your past research and training environment. In HQP awards and research contributions component, you can describe research contributions such as publications, patents, and presentations in your CCV, as well as highlight awards and scholarships and fellowships won by HQP in your HQP application module. The HQP listed on your CCV must be involved in your research and indicated with an asterisk on their contributions. Only students who have signed a consent form should be indicated with an asterisk in the CCV. For students who did not sign consent form, only general information can be provided in the CCV and in this section of the application. We want to remind you that HQP presentations given at conferences and events should not be included in your CCV and should be described in this application module. The presentation section of the CCV should only include those which you have given yourself. In the Outcomes and Skills Gained by HQP component, you should describe your most significant examples of HQP and explain how your training contributed to their success. A successful outcome can be broadly defined as HQP doing something that has impact. This impact can be in the NSE or outside, but it needs to be made clear in your application how the skills gained in your research training environment are being used. Examples could include skill sets, both in science and engineering or professional development, or experiences gained while in the research group, where they go afterwards, such as careers or further studies, and showing that HQP complete their degree in a reasonable amount of time. It is not reasonable to expect that all HQP continue on in academia. What is also important is that HQP are being trained with valuable skill sets that can lead to important careers, such as in policy development, industry, government, etc. There is a present position field in the HQP section of the CCV, but if you want to expand on the information, you can do so in this section of the application. A reminder to make sure to stay within the period of assessment, as anything outside will not be evaluated. We encourage you to read the relevant sections of the PRM to ensure that you have touched on all points. In terms of numbers, it is important to add context to the number. For example, if you have trained 80 students, specify what kind of training. If you have a small number of HQP, explain why. To summarize, this slide highlights some important instructions for this section. Use the asterisk to identify HQP as co-authors in your CCV when prior consent has been given. Include the present position of HQP in the CCV when prior consent has been given. Do not select academic advisor as the role in the CCV. You should only have HQP listed that you have formally supervised or co-supervised. The academic advisor option in the CCV is unclear to evaluators. Unfortunately, we are unable to remove it from the template as the platform is shared by other agencies, which do use the designation. Within the application, make sure that you have clearly described the nature of HQP in your research group and their level of involvement in your research. In cases of co-supervision, be sure to clearly explain your role. Explain any delays in training, such as leaves taken by yourself or your HQP. A pattern of prolonged periods of study or infrequent student withdrawal from programs should be explained. And lastly, a reminder that early career researchers will not be rated insufficient solely due to a lack of training record. That's it for the past contributions to the training of HQP. Recall that the second part of the HQP criterion is based on future plans for training. This part has two components: the training philosophy and the research training plan. The training philosophy now includes mandatory consideration of EDI. We'll discuss details in the next few slides. The required inclusion of equity, diversity, and inclusion consideration in future plans for training started in Competition 2020. In order to take EDI into consideration in a meaningful way, it requires awareness of the context of the program of research and training, and the aspects of equity and inclusion you have the potential to significantly impact or influence. Aspects of context could include known challenges and barriers to participation, the field of research and institution related to the proposed program of research, underrepresented groups in proximity to the applicant's program of research. You may also describe other aspects of your research context which trainees will encounter as part of the proposed program of research. Once you identify where you can make an impact, you can reflect this in your choice of specific actions. Description of specific actions could include the stages associated with the chosen specific actions, such as outreach, recruitment, hiring, training environment, and mentorship. The specific actions that will promote participation of specific underrepresented groups. Details related to implementation of specific actions, such as HQP-focused partner organizations, events, training in proximity to your program of research and training, or others. For the purpose of Discovery Grant assessment, underrepresented groups is not limited to existing equity employment groups: women, Indigenous peoples, persons with disability, members of visible minorities, racialized groups, and members of LGBTQ communities. Rather, it broadly refers to any group that is underrepresented in the NSE. You could also include approaches to support other underrepresented groups in NSE. For example, HQP with varying language abilities, such as French-speaking HQP in English institutions, ESL or FSL international students, HQP from rural or remote communities, HQP who are the first in the family to attend post-secondary or graduate school, HQP from low socioeconomic backgrounds, or HQP with non-traditional career paths. Outside of the new EDI requirements, listed here are some additional examples of what may be included in the training philosophy. The intention of the section is to allow applicants the ability to really highlight any strengths that they have as a research mentor and scientist or engineer. You should aim to clearly explain a specific training philosophy and avoid the use of blanket generic statements. Your training philosophy could also detail your approach to the training of HQP, details of how you mentor. For this point, details could include your approach to fostering scientific and critical thinking, how you ensure HQP obtain valuable skills for the future, how you involve the HQP in the development of their research project or thesis, or how you help them develop into independent scientists and engineers. HQP involvement in your research program, and any research training and development opportunities you will be providing. Examples could include quality and extent of interactions with collaborators, involvement in interdisciplinary research, interaction with private and public sector, promoting participation of HQP in science outreach activities and professional development workshops, enhancing the communication skills of the HQP, and creating role models for future cohorts of science and engineering students. In terms of the research training plan, focus on the quality, suitability, and clarity of your plan. You want to highlight the suitability and inclusion of HQP within the research program and its anticipated projects in the NSE. This could include explaining your capacity as a researcher to supervise the proposed number and type of HQP, the anticipated outcomes based on these plans, and the value of the projects for the HQP. As well, be sure to justify any limitations on HQP training, and explain your role in any planned co-supervision or collaboration. A few final tips on preparing your application. Read other successful applications. See if your institution keeps a repository of successful grants in the research office. It is always a good practice to get your application reviewed by your research grants office and a subject matter expert, as they can provide different perspectives. Your research office can assist you with making sure you have met all the requirements, so be sure to check your institutional deadlines. Please also keep in mind that NSERC's deadline is for the Research Grants Office to approve your application and submit it to NSERC, so please follow their deadlines. It is important to read the peer review manual and the merit indicators grid when preparing your application, because that is what the evaluation group will be using when reviewing your application. Lastly, proofreading is an important step. Having a non-expert review your application can help to point out issues with spelling and grammar and sentence structure, ensuring your proposal has the clarity you want it to have. Here are some key contacts for the Discovery Grants program. For any general questions, please send an email to resgrant@nserc-crsng.gc.ca, and your email will be forwarded to the appropriate person. Lastly, this page is a collection of resources available on the NSERC website to help you prepare your application. Thank you very much for watching.